Hello YouTubers! Today at Marty's Garage we're going to look at my 1942 Harley-Davidson WLA. I was riding earlier today and noticed it was every once in a while jumping out of third gear. So we're just going to take a close look at the transmission, and I made a few adjustments. I actually shortened the shifter linkage just to make sure that I can actually roll the shifter drum far enough that it reaches its detent. And what I mean by that, I'll show you in the transmission. Here you see the top of the lid of the transmission is off. This is the 3-speed. That piece there is the shifter drum that controls the shifter forks and the clutches with the drive dogs to select the appropriate gear. So I think what was happening was that the adjustment of my shifter linkage on this side here was off a little bit. I loosened this off over here, this guy, and shortened that up a little bit. So by the time the shifter reaches the end of the gate here, you know, it'll bottom out right in the slot here. By the time this lever hits the bottom of the gate, it has to pull through the linkage this lever on the transmission here. You can see it here, down here underneath the ignition. On this side here is the shifter drum. So like I said, I shortened the linkage, making sure that by the time that shifter reaches the end of the slot, I could pull the linkage far enough ahead so the roll can actually reach its detent. The detent sits on the far end. It's just a spring-loaded ball that matches these detent openings. There you can see one just in the corner. I think it was not reaching the detent for the third gear quite correctly. I think that was the reason it was jumping out of gear. Not a good scenario, of course. For one thing, of course, the over revving of the engine, and of course the shock loading in the transmission is not good. There's a lot of torque on the drive dogs, only on a very short, small portion of the dog. So it's way more torque on a small portion of the dog than is intended. So that's of course not good. So I'll place the camera on top and I'll shift through the gears, and you'll have a better understanding of how this works. I'm just going to zoom in on the transmission. So now the transmission is in neutral. I can't roll the engine over, I can only roll the back wheel. So when I roll it, you'll notice the output shaft and the chain spinning. When you're idling at a traffic light or stop, that's of course not the case. Your rear wheel is of course not spinning. The engine is running, the clutch basket is turning, but you're disengaged, so the whole transmission is pretty much at a dead stop, unless of course your clutch is not properly disengaging. So now we're going to shift into first gear, and you see a little turn there, but then I cannot shift it any further. The reason for this is that the cogs on the shifter are not properly aligned with the openings inside the gear. This is what you call a sliding mesh, a constant mesh transmission. That means that the gears are continuously in grabbing each other. So these shifter dogs are not properly lined up with the gear right now. So this is, you'll find this lots with these type of transmissions. You cannot get it into gear. the solution to that is either you take it back into neutral, engage your clutch, you know, let the engine just give the transmission a spin, disengage again, and then push it into first gear. That sometimes works. Or you hold slight pressure on your shifter and you just roll your bike back and forth a little bit until it engages. Right there, that's first gear. Now when we're driving, or riding rather, we're going from first gear into neutral, down to second, or up to second gear. So now you notice the shifter gear on the other end, this guy over here is actually has shifted into the next gear. Now from second into third, so the third gear sits at the bottom of the screen, and now I'll shift into third, and you'll see the roll, or the drum, the selector drum roll as well. There we go, that's third gear. So now that linkage is a little shorter, it can actually, when you shift into third, like I said, when that handle reaches the end of the shifter gate, because that linkage is now shorter, it can pull that roll further ahead, and the roll can actually reach its third gear detent, and that would mean that the sliding clutch in the transmission for the third gear is now properly engaged into that third gear dogs. So now it can handle, or should be able to handle, all the torque, and hopefully this cures the problem and we can get back on the road and enjoy some beautiful weather. And this is back into neutral again. So catch you guys later.